Welcome to Yerba Mate Talks.
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at. We're continuing our reading of the Satanic verses. Um, One cool thing I want to show all of you is I got my Yerba Mate Talks. So I'm here at DebateCon 6, so this is a little kind of video we're trying to get through the rest of the book, so slowly but surely we're going to get through the rest, and then we're going to do a deeper analysis when we're done. Okay, here we go. So, we're talking about Salahuddin or Saladin Chamcha, and we're going deeper into his analysis about him. Salahuddin had to buy his own clothes, such as double-breasted blue serge mackintosh and 7 blue and white striped Van Heusen shirts and detachable semi-stiff collars, which Genghis made him wear every day to get used to the studs, and Salahuddin felt as if a blunt knife were pushed in just beneath his newly broken Adam's apple. And he had to make sure there would be enough for the hotel room and everything, so that he was too nervous to ask his father if they could go to a movie. Not even one. Not even the pure hell of St. Trinian's, or to eat out, not a single Chinese meal. And in years later he would remember nothing of his first fortnight in his beloved Elohim Dioin, except pounds, shillings, pence, like the disciple of the philosopher king Chanakya, who had asked the great man what he had meant by saying one could live in the world and also not live in it, and who was told to carry a brimful pitcher of water through a holiday crowd without spilling a drop on pain of death, so that when he returned he was unable to describe the day's festivities, having been like a blind man, seeing only the jug on his head. Genghis Chamchawala became very still in those days, seeming not to care if he ate or drank or did any dang thing. Damn thing. He was happy sitting in the hotel room watching television, especially when the Flintstones were on, because he told his son that Wilma Beebe reminded him of Nasreen. Salahuddin tried to prove he was a man by fasting right along with his father, trying to outlast him, but he never did manage it. But he never managed it. And when the pangs got too strong, he went out of the hotel to the cheap joint nearby, where you could buy takeaway roast chickens that hung greasily in the window, turning slowly on their spits. When he brought the chicken into the hotel lobby, he became embarrassed, not wanting the staff to see, so he stuffed it inside the double-breasted serge and went up in the lift, reeking of spit roast. His mackintosh bulging, his face turning red, chicken-breasted beneath the gaze of dowagers and liftwallas, he felt the birth of that implacable rage which would burn within him, undiminished for over a quarter of a century, which would boil away his childhood father worship and make him a secular man who would do his best thereafter to live without a god of any type, which would feel perhaps his determination to become the thing his father was not, could never be, that is, a good and proper Englishman. Oh boy. I feel bad for some Daisy folks. Oh boy. Yes, and English, even if his mother had been right all along, even if there was old, only paper in the toilets and tepid used water full of mud and soap to step into after taking exercise, even if it meant a lifetime spent amongst winter naked trees whose fingers clutched despairingly at the few pale hours of watery filtered light. Um, so this is kind of interesting to consider. We have we have two South Asian or Desi guys who come from Muslim backgrounds who are rejecting religion. I wonder if this is any kind of insert of the author himself, who is a South Asian man from an Islamic background. Um, I think that's interesting. Art imitates reality. And I think that that's what's going on here. It's quite interesting to kind of consider uh, what, the dynamics here. So, and this is the thing that we need to know about South Asian culture. There's this real push for social mobility, and social mobility is imitating kind of what's around. Um, so in this case, Salahuddin wants to be an English person because that makes him a better and good person instead of maybe just being himself. I think that would be an interesting consideration. What we're reading is the Satanic Verses by we're reading the Satanic Verses. Man, I'm so tired. By Salman Rushdie. So yeah, we're reading the Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie, and this is part 6. So we've already read 5 parts before. We're on the 6th part. It's a very long book, as you can see. We've got 564 pages, and we're only on page 43. So yeah, we're gonna try to knock it through this text. But yeah, this is our 6th reading. I wonder when we're gonna get done. This might be like chapter 3. So it's a long read, and there's a lot of cultural elements that we have to kind of parse through. Yeah, it's interesting as an American reader when they keep saying lift. It's really kind of funny because we call it an elevator in the United States, but it's kind of cool to see this, kind of get the English vibes here. So where are we? On winter nights, he who had never slept beneath more than a sheet lay beneath mountains of wool and felt like a figure in an ancient myth, condensed by the gods to have a boulder pressing down upon his chest. But never mind, he would be English. Even if his classmates giggled at his voice and excluded him from their secrets, because these exclusions only increased his determination. And that was when he began to act, to find masks that these fellows would recognize. Paleface masks, clown masks, until he fooled them into thinking he was okay. He was people like us. He fooled them the way a sensitive human being can persuade gorillas to accept him into their family, to fondle and caress and stuff bananas in his mouth. After he had settled up the last bill, and the wallet he had once found at a rainbow's end was empty, his father said to him, "See now, you pay your way. I've made a man out of you." But what man? That's what fathers never know. But what man? That's what fathers never know, not in advance. Not until it's too late. One day soon, after he started at school, he came down to breakfast to find a kipper on his plate. He sat there staring at it, not knowing where to begin. Then he cut into it and got a mouthful of tiny bones. And after extracting them all, another mouthful, more bones. His fellow pupils watched him suffer in silence. Not one of them said, "Here, let me show you. You eat it in this way." It took him 90 minutes to eat the fish, and he was not permitted to rise from the table until it was done. By that time he was shaking, and if he had been able to cry, he would have done so. Then the thought occurred to him that he had been taught an important lesson. England was a peculiar tasting smoked fish full of spikes and bones, and nobody would ever tell him how to eat it. He discovered that he was a bloody minded person. I'll show them all, he swore. You see, if I don't, the Eton Kipper was his first victory, the first step in his conquest of England. William the Conqueror, it is said, began by eating a mouthful of English sand. Boy, it's so funny. I would never think about being American in this way. It's so weird. It's really, really weird. Yes, that's what we're reading. We're reading the Satanic verses. And we're going to do small bits. We're going to come back. We might do another reading today, but yeah, because I'm going to be doing the debate con too. So just trying to get through the book. I haven't really had time to do the reading, so it's been a lot, but we're going to get through it. William the Conqueror, it is said, began by eating a mouthful of English sand. 5 years later, he was back home after leaving school, waiting until the English university term began and his transmutation into a Villietti was well advanced. See how well he complains. Nasreen teased him in front of his father about everything. He has such big criticisms. The fans are fixed too loosely on the roof and will fall to slice our heads off in our sleep, he says. And the food is too fattening. Why, we don't cook some things without frying. He wants to know the top floor balconies are unsafe and the paint is peeled. Why can't we take pride in our surroundings, isn't it? And the garden is overgrown. We are just jungly people. He thinks so, and looks how coarse our movies are. Now he doesn't enjoy, and so much disease you can't even drink water from the tap. My God, he really got an education. Husband, our little Salu, England returned, and talking so fine and all. I guess that mean he's talking like this, he's got a very posh, refined type of accent, right? Is that what's going on here? Yeah? In it? Yeah. So, what's going on here? Yeah, so, yeah, what we're understanding here is he's really wanting to be English. The thing is, does he even really know what it means to be English? What makes someone English? What makes someone an American? I think these are interesting questions to consider. I think really the key here, from like a therapist angle, is he wants to fit in. He wants to fit in. He feels kind of like he has no real space for home. So he's trying to find home, and I guess what he thinks his home is being English. So yeah, I'm curious. I don't even know what that means, what it means to be truly English or truly any particular culture. They were walking on the lawn in the evening when the sun dive, watching the sun dive into the sea, wandering in the shade of those great spreading trees, some snaky, some bearded, some bearded, which Salahuddin, who now called himself Saladin, after the fashion of the English school, but would remain Chumchawala for a while yet, until a theatrical agent shortened his name for commercial reasons, and begun to be able to name jackfruit, banyan, jacaranda, flame of the forest, plain, small chuhoi mui touch me not plants grew at the foot of the tree of his own life, the walnut tree that Genghis had planted with his own hands on the day of the coming of the sun. Father and son in the birth tree were both awkward, unable to respond properly to Nasreen's gentle fun. Saladin had been seized by the melancholy notion that the garden had been a better place before he knew its names, that something had been lost which he would never be able to regain, and Jangez Chamchawala found that he could no longer look at his son in the eye because the bitterness he saw came close to freezing his heart. When he spoke, turning roughly away from the 18-year-old Walnut, in which at times during their long separations he had imagined his only son's soul to reside, the words came out incorrectly and made him sound like the rigid, cold figure he had hoped he would never become and feared he could not avoid. Tell your son, Chengiz boomed. Tell your son, Chengiz boomed at Nasreen, that if he went abroad to learn contempt for his own kind, then his own kind can feel nothing but scorn for him. What is he? A Fauntleroy? A grand Panjadrum? Is this my fate? To lose a son and find a freak? Whatever I am, father dear, Saladin told the older man, I owe it all to you. It was their last family chat. All the summer feelings continued to run high. For all Nasreen's attempts at mediation, you must apologize to your father. Darling, poor man is suffering like the devil, but his pride won't let him hug you. Even the Ayah Kasturba and the old bear Valab, her husband, attempted to meditate, but neither father nor son would bend. Same material is the problem, Kasturba told Nasreen. Daddy and Sonny, same material, same to same. When the war with Pakistan began that December, Nasreen decided, with a kind of defiance, that she would not cancel her Friday parties to show that Hindus slash Muslims can love as well as hate. She pointed out Genghis saw a look in her eyes and did not attempt to argue, but set the servants to putting blackout curtains over all the windows instead. That night, for the last time, Saladin Chamchoa played his old role of doorman, dressed up in an English dinner jacket, and when the guests came, the same old guests, dusted with the gray powders of age, but otherwise the same. They bestowed upon him the same old pats and kisses, the nostalgic benedictions of his youth. Look, look how grown, they were saying. Just a darling. What to say? They were all trying to hide their fear of war, danger of air raids, the radio said. And when they ruffled Saladin's hair, their hands were a little too shaky, or alternatively a little too rough. Late that night, the sirens sang, and the guests ran for cover, hiding under beds and cupboards anywhere. Nasreen Chamchawala found herself alone by a food-laden table and attempted to reassure the company by standing there in her newsprint sari, munching a piece of fish as if nothing were the matter. Okay. So it was when she started choking on the fishbone of her death. There was nobody to help her. They were all crouching in corners with their eyes shut. Even Saladin, conqueror of Kippers, Saladin of England, returned upper lip, had lost his nerve. Nasreen Chamchawala fell, twitched, gasped, died, and with all clear sounded the guests emerged sheepishly to find their hostess extinct in the middle of the dining room, stolen away by the exterminating angel, Khali Pili Khalas, as Bombay talk has it, finished off for no reason, gone for good. Wow, that's pretty intense. Whew. So basically what we just read here is that they were having a party, then there was a air raid, and basically what happened is Nasreen, who is the mother of Saladin or Salahuddin, basically passes away because she chokes on a fishbone during the middle of this raid. Wow, it's pretty tragic. Less than a year after the death of Nasreen Chamchawala, from her inability to triumph over fishbones in the manner of her foreign educated son, Genghis married again without a word or of warning to anyone. Saladin in his English college received a letter from his father commanding him in the irritatingly orotund and ob- obsolescent phraseology that Genghis always used in correspondence to be happy. Rejoice, the letter said, for what is lost is reborn, for what is lost is reborn. The explanation for this somewhat cryptic sentence came lower down in the aerogram, and when Saladin learned that his new stepmother was also called Nasreen, something went wrong in his head, and he wrote his father a letter full of cruelty and anger, whose violence was the type that exists only between fathers and sons, and which differs from that between daughters and mothers, in that there lurks behind the possibility of actual jaw-breaking fisticuffs. Genghis wrote back by a return of post a brief letter, 4 lines of archaic abuse: cad rotter, bounder, scoundrel, varlet, whoreson rogue. Kindly consider all family connections irreparably sundered, it concluded. Consequences, your responsibility. After a year of silence, Saladin received a communication, a letter of forgiveness that was in all particulars harder to take than the earlier excommunicatory thunderbolt. When you become a father, O my son, Genghis Chamchwala confided, that shall you know those moments, ah, too sweet, when for love one dandles the bunny babe upon one's knee, whereupon, without warning or provocation, the blessed creature, may I be frank, it wets one. Perhaps for a moment, when one feels the gorge rising, a tide of anger swells within the blood. But then it dies away as quickly as it came. For do we not, as adults, understand that the little one is not to blame? He knows not what he does. Deeply offended at being compared to a urinating boy, Saladin maintained what he had hoped was a dignified silence. By the time of his graduation, he had acquired a British passport because he had arrived in the country just before the laws tightened up, so he was able to inform Genghis in a brief note that he intended to settle down in London and look for work as an actor. Oh, wow. So they're both actors. This is an interesting, or at least that's what it appears to be. Okay, we're going to go up to page 50 and then we're going to take a break. We're going to stop part 6. Genghis settled down in London and looked for work as an actor. Genghis Chamchawala's reply came by express mail. Might as well be a confounded gigolo. It's my belief some devil has gotten into you and turned your wits. You who have been given so much, do you not feel you owe anything to anyone? To your country? To the memory of your dear mother? To your own mind? Will you spend your life jiggling and preening under bright lights, kissing blonde women under the gaze of strangers who have paid to watch your shame? You are no son of mine, but a ghoul, a hoosh, a demon up from hell, an actor. Answer me this. What am I to tell my friends? this is the funniest drama of the South Asian community. There's so much investment on what people think about you, and it's really sad. It's a really bad part of the South Asian community. It's all about what kind of job do you have? What do I tell folks around me? It's all about appearances. It's not really about who you deeply are as a person. It's a very problematic element that we see, and we definitely see this here. And when I say the South Asian community, I mean the entire South Asian community. I'm talking about Jews, Christians, Muslims, um, Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, every single kind of cultural group. This is the elements that we see, and Sikhs too. Everybody is included in this. Like this whole how people view you. It's really bad. And beneath the signature, the pathetic, petulant postscript: "Now you have your own bad genie. Do not think you will inherit the magic lamp." After that, Genghis Chamchawala wrote to his son at irregular intervals. In every letter, he returned to the theme of demons and possession. A man untrue to himself becomes a two-legged lie, and such beasts are Shaitan's best work, he wrote. And also in a more sentimental vein, I have your soul kept safe, my son. Here in this walnut tree, the devil only has your body. When you are free from him, return and claim your immortal spirit. It flourishes in the garden. And it's interesting how kind of cultural Desi Islam kind of takes its place within this text. I think that's a really fascinating element that we see throughout the text, is this kind of fixation on and nationalism. Like nationalism is big. Are you English? Are you Indian? Pakistani? Like it's very strange that we've created these effigies that are created within people, and somehow all of them seem to interconnect, even though maybe they don't. Um, okay. The handwriting in these letters altered over the years, changing from florid confidence that had made it instantly identifiable, becoming narrower, undecorated, purified. Eventually, the letter stopped. But Saladin heard from other sources that his father's preoccupation with the supernatural had continued to deepen, until finally he had become a recluse, perhaps in order to escape this world in which demons could steal his own son's body, a world unsafe for the man of true religious faith. So this is an interesting thing, because we have to understand the mythology of the jinn. The jinn are these supernatural fire elemental beings, and within, I guess you would say, Middle Eastern / Islamic lore and the derivatives outside of that, do these beings can kind of take the position of possession, and they're very similar to humankind, where they can be good, bad, and all kinds, and they have free will like humans, according to these narratives. So I think it's interesting that when these terms are usually brought up, you don't really see them in a positive light. They're always mentioned in a more negative light. So that's a negative darkness. So I think that that's interesting. His father's transformation disconcerted Saladin. Even at such a great distance, his parents had become Muslims in the lackadaisical light manner of Bombayites. Genghis Chamchawala had seemed far more godlike to his infant son than any Allah. That this father, this profane deity, albeit now discredited, had dropped to his knees in his old age and started bowing down towards Mecca, was hard for his godless son to accept. I blame that witch, he told himself, falling for rhetorical purposes into the same language of spells and goblins that his father had commenced to employ. That Nosrine too. Is it I who have been the subject of devilment? Am I the one possessed? It's not my handwriting that changed. The letters didn't come anymore. Years passed. And then Saladin Chamcha, actor, self-made man, returned to Bombay with the Prospero Players to interpret the role of the Indian doctor in The Millionairess by George Bernard Shaw. On stage, he tailored his voice to the requirements of the part, but those long suppressed locutions, those discarded vowels and consonants began to leak out of his mouth, out of the theater as well. His voice was betraying him, and he discovered his component parts to be capable of other treasons too. A man who sets out to make himself up is taking on the creator's role according to one way of seeing things. He's unnatural, a blasphemer, an abomination of abominations. From another angle, you could see pathos in him, heroism in his struggle, in his willingness to risk. Not all mutants survive or consider him politically. Most migrants learn and can become disguises, our own false descriptions to counter the falsehoods invented about us, concealing for reasons of security our secret selves. A man who invents himself needs someone to believe him, to prove he's managed it. Playing God again, you could say, or you could come down a few notches and think of Tinkerbell. Fairies don't exist if children don't clap their hands. Or you might simply say, it's just like being a man, not only the need to be believed, but to believe in another. You've got it, love. Saladin Chamsha met Pamela Lovelace 5.5 days before the end of the 1960s. When women still wore bandanas in their hair, she stood at the center of the room, full of Trotskyist actresses, and fixed him with eyes so bright he monopolized her all evening, and she never stopped smiling, and she left with another man. He went home to dream of her eyes and smile, the slenderness of her skin. He pursued her for 2 years. England yields her treasures with reluctance. He was astonished by his own perseverance and understood she had become the custodian of his destiny, that if she did not relent, then his entire attempt at metamorphosis would fail. Let me, he begged her, wrestling politely on her white rug that left him at his midnight bus stops covered in guilty fluff. Believe me, I am the one. One night out of the blue, she let him. She said she believed. He married her before she could change her mind, but never learned to read her thoughts. When she was unhappy, she would lock herself in the bedroom until she felt better. It's none of your business, she told him. I don't want anybody to see me when I am like that. He used to call her a clam. Open up, he hammered on, all the locked doors of their lives together. Basement first, then maisonette, then mansion. I love you. Let me in. He needed her so badly to reassure himself of his own existence that he never comprehended the desperation in her dazzling permanent smile, the terror in the brightness which she faced the world, the reasons why she hid when she couldn't manage to beam. Only when it was too late did she tell him that her parents had committed suicide together when she had just begun to menstruate over their heads in gambling debts, leaving her with the aristocratic bellow of a voice that marked her out as a golden girl, a woman to envy, whereas in fact she was abandoned, lost. Her parents couldn't even be bothered to wait and watch her grow up. That's how much she was loved. So of course she had no confidence at all, and every moment she spent in the world was full of panic. So she smiled and smiled. Maybe once a week she locked the door and shook and felt like a husk, like an empty peanut shell, a monkey without a nut. They never managed to have children. She blamed herself. After 10 years, Saladin discovered that there was something the matter with some of his own chromosomes. Two sticks too long or too short. He couldn't remember. His genetic inheritance, apparently, he was lucky to exist. Lucky not to be some deformed freak. Was it his mother or his father from whom The doctors couldn't say. He blamed. It's easy to guess which one, after all. It wouldn't do to think badly of the dead. They hadn't been getting along lately, he told himself that afterwards, but not during. Afterwards, he told himself, we were on the rocks. Maybe it was the missing babies. Maybe we just grew away from each other. Maybe this, maybe that. During, he looked away from all the strain, all the scratchiness, all the fights that never got going. He closed his eyes and waited until her smile came back. He allowed himself to believe in that smile, that brilliant counterfeit of joy. He tried to invent a happy future for them, so make it come true by making it up and then believing in it. On his way to India, he was thinking how lucky he was to have her. I'm lucky, yes, I am. Don't argue. I'm the luckiest bastard in the world. And how wonderful it was to have before him the stretching, shady avenue of years, the prospect of growing old in the presence of her gentleness. He had worked so hard and come so close to convincing himself of the truth of these paltry fictions that when he went to bed with Zini Vakil within 48 hours of arriving in Bombay, the first thing he did, even before they made love, was to faint, to pass out cold, because the messages reaching his brain were in such serious disagreement with one another, as if his right eye saw the world moving to the left, while the left eye saw it sliding to the right. All right, very good. We've gotten up to page 51. We're on page 52 now. Thank you all for coming. We're going to do another reading hopefully soon. And yeah, now we're going to end.